Hello there. Was a pretty ambitious first slide for the year. Welcome back and congratulations on surviving the winter break and holidays. Today we're gonna do something kind of fun as opposed to something not very fun. Today we have a coffee recipe that I think is really unique. I think it's really delicious and I think it's pretty timely as we lead into the spring Valentine's Day season. I'm feeling optimistic. I know we're still in the dead of winter, but hey, spring is on the way and I've got a really tasty floral drink to make. Today I'm gonna be showing you how to make a drink that I like to call the Aphrodite. Now, some of you may recognize this as a drink I have shared before in short form video, but 60 to 90 seconds is kind of a hard format to share recipes, talking about the weights of ingredients, about flavors, and about why we do different things in a recipe. So we're gonna expand on that today. We're gonna go really in depth and hopefully at the end of this, you will feel enabled to potentially try this at home yourself. So with that being said, let's get started. Let's start off by talking about the main ingredients you'll need for this drink. As a base, we're gonna be needing some type of milk and also espresso. As for milk options, you can of course use whatever you'd like. I'll be using whole today, but of course oat tastes really good with this. And I also found that soy milk tastes really nice with this. But again, that's up to your personal preference, all will work. As for base ingredients, you're gonna need a cane sugar, preferably a white cane sugar. We don't wanna go super heavy. I'm not using like a demerara or a brown sugar, just the regular will work here. We're gonna be using the flavor of vanilla in this drink. I prefer to use vanilla paste because it has whole vanilla beans inside it. I think it's a little bit stronger of a flavor. However, if you wanna use vanilla extract, you can use that as well. Or if you're feeling particularly bougie and you have vanilla pods, you can also steep whole vanilla pods with this. But any of those three will work. I like vanilla paste. We are going to need juniper berries. Now, you don't see juniper berries a ton out in the world and in coffee drinks. I think what juniper is most commonly associated with is going to be gin. That is the primary flavor that is incorporated into gin. So if you tend to like gin, you will probably like this recipe. We're gonna be needing some rose water. And additionally, you wanna also have some dried roses. Now what I have here are just dried rose buds, and these are traditionally used for tea. However, if you want to get like a dried rose petal tea or anything like that, that will also work as well. The brand I'm using happens to be from Onyx, which is not a sponsor. They are simply my employer. But if you are looking for a quick and easy way to get like rose tea, Onyx does have some and I do really like it. For this drink, we're also going to be using beetroot powder today. Now this is a little less essential as we're just using this as a natural coloring agent, but if you want to go all the way with this drink, beetroot powder is a nice thing to have. Those are our primary ingredients. Let's get started. Now the Aphrodite is essentially a vanilla, rose, and juniper latte, and the primary way we're gonna be infusing those flavors into this drink is gonna be through a simple syrup. So let's get started by making our infused syrup. As for tools, you will need a saucepan and also a stirring implement of some sort. I'm using a whisk today. Get this onto start on like a medium heat. This doesn't need to be cranked all the way. Now I've made quite a few videos about syrup infusions before. Today we're gonna be going with a 2-to-1 syrup ratio. So that's gonna be 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. You can scale this up or down pretty easily. However, I have portioned out and given like actual weighed numbers to our ingredients based on the amount of sugar I'm using in this specific recipe, if that makes sense. If you want to scale up or down, you might have to do a little bit of math on your own to switch up those other proportional ingredients. However, today we're starting with 200 grams of our cane sugar. And this should make enough syrup for a good, I don't know, I would frankly say like 10 to 15 drinks, but of course that depends on how much syrup you're adding to the final drink. 100 grams of water. Give it a little stir. Now I'm starting off with 15 grams of our whole rose buds. If you're using leaves instead of buds, it should be about the same. Just pop those in there. This syrup looks really nice once it's all done. Now I'm using 8 grams of juniper berries. However, I have given all of these a very light crush just to break them apart a little bit. I find that this helps release that flavor a little bit quicker into the syrup. Juniper berries in. At this point, our pan is starting to heat up. We're starting to see that sugar begin to dissolve. The fun part of using a whisk and whole rose buds is that they sometimes like to get stuck in the whisk. Our vanilla paste, which is in a kind of a platter scenario, which is probably the least efficient way to transfer this. However, this is 4 grams of vanilla paste. I really imagined I'd just be able to kind of scoop this off. That wasn't so bad. Mixing my spoon in there just to make sure I get off all that delicious vanilla bean. Okay, now this final ingredient is a slight adjustment from the recipe I posted a couple weeks ago, and this was actually an audience suggestion that I tested out and really liked, so I'm gonna be adding it to this revised recipe. Now we of course already have our rose flavor steeping in here through the addition of our dried rose. However, if you are someone who really likes rose and wants a stronger floral flavor to all of this, you can add some rose water. So I'm gonna be adding about 20 grams of rose water to all this. This is really just gonna intensify that florality. It's gonna be very rose heavy. However, we do have a good addition of vanilla, and then the juniper has kind of a lighter, I wanna say, it has kind of like a bright bite to it that balances out that really heavy floral rose. I think the issue with a lot of floral syrups is oftentimes people will experience them as being like a little bit soapy. That's a pretty common problem, especially with like lavender syrups. And I think having the vanilla and the juniper in here really counteracts that soap perception, I suppose. Okay, our syrup is just about coming to a simmer right now, so I'm gonna keep a pretty close eye on the temperature for the next 15 to 20 minutes. You want it to sit at or just below the simmer, so like you don't really burn anything. We really just want to let this all marinate together and for that liquid to reduce a bit, so we have a really nice viscosity to the final syrup. I'd keep an eye on it. I'd stir it every couple minutes just to keep things moving, but that being said, I will see you in about 15 minutes. I want to give a huge thank you to Trade Coffee for sponsoring today's video. So it's the new year, and perhaps you're in the mood to try some new coffees, or maybe you're just exploring new brewing methods. Either way, Trade is here to make your exploration as easy as possible. Trade is a coffee subscription service that makes it easy to discover new coffees as they partner with the nation's top-rated independent roasters to send you quality, freshly roasted coffee directly to your door. Their selection is built to have something for everyone, from the coffee novice to the expert brewer. With over 450 coffees to choose from, there is sure to be something for you. This year, try out different processing methods, varieties, farms, and origins from the comfort of your own home, as Trade delivers you coffee on a schedule that works best for you. So if you're ready to get started, right now, Trade is offering my subscribers a free bag of coffee with select subscription purchases at drinktrade.com/MDC. That's drinktrade.com/MDC, or the top link in the description. Thank you again to Trade for sponsoring today's video. Our syrup is in the back right now finishing off, so let's talk about the remaining things we're gonna need and do for this drink today. Now, this drink is of course in a latte format, so it will have a double shot of espresso and then steamed milk as the two primary ingredients. However, because this is a fun floral pink drink, and because I'm kind of a sucker for presentation, we're going to actually change the color of our milk. Now, instead of doing this with like a food dye or anything like that, you can actually just use beetroot powder. Beetroot powder is a really great ingredient that naturally will change the color of things to a nice like pinky red color. And when it's incorporated into something like a latte with so many other heavy flavors, you really don't notice it at all. Any flavor it adds is pretty negligible. Now, the drink we're gonna be making here is gonna be about 10 ounces in total. I'm gonna be steaming up about 300 grams by weight of milk, and we're gonna be using about 3 grams of our beetroot powder. I hope those were appropriate conversions and like metrics for everyone. Now, of course, as I've said many times before in recipe videos, and I'll continue to say, all of this should be done to taste. All of these recipes are built to what I would consider my preference and a pretty good like starting preference for people, but things like if you find you want a stronger juniper flavor, if you find you want more or less beetroot powder, please feel comfortable to adjust all of those things. It's fully up to what you like. These are guidelines and starting points for you. This is like me saying in a recipe, like add salt to taste. Like it is a bit to your taste. So 3 grams of our beetroot powder right in there. Now, it's gonna just kind of sit on the top of your milk. It acts pretty hydrophobic to begin with. Don't worry about that when you steam it up on your milk frother, or if you use like some sort of handheld milk frother, it will incorporate very nicely. It looks a little strange right now. Don't worry about it. Now, let's talk about garnish. I do love a garnish on a drink. I also love a somewhat non-functional garnish on a drink occasionally. And this garnish is a little bit non-functional, but you can make it whatever you want it to be is what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna show you what I like to do for the presentation of this drink. Take it with a grain of salt. If you wanna just use a whole rosebud on top, go for it. That was a lot of words. Let's continue. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a stripe of rose sugar down the side of the glass. Now, this is for aesthetics. I don't expect you to, to lick the side of the glass unless you'd like to, in which case I'm not gonna stop you. However, this is gonna be very much for aesthetics, and this is probably gonna be the easiest way you can do it. In this bowl, I've simply crushed together some of those dried rose petals that I have, along with some of that cane sugar. I'm now just gonna kind of sprinkle it pretty evenly onto a flat surface. In this case, we have a plate. Now, I'm being pretty intentional about how my sugar and rose petals are laid out due to the fact that I'm gonna be basically just rolling the side of the glass onto this pile of sugar. And so your rose petals are gonna wanna like be on the top of everything as they're a good bit lighter. But I'm just making sure I have everything spread out exactly how I want it. So when I place my glass on the side, you won't have like a huge pile of rose buds or a huge pile of like sugar. Now, because we're not gonna be actively consuming this garnish, I'm not too worried about the glue, if you will, that I'll be using to adhere the rose sugar onto the side of the glass. That being said, the easy way to do this is probably just with a sliced lime. You can literally take your lime and just brush it against the side, making sure you get a nice flat strip. Now, if you want to, you can be kind of cautious around the lip of the glass, just because if there was any point you would have contact with the lime juice, it would be at the lip rather than anywhere else. It's hard to see, but I've got a pretty even stripe right there. Then we just carefully place on our little bed of roses here. Back and forth motion. I'm not too worried about everything being super even up front. We can always kind of fix things as we go. Okay, this is what we have initially. This is pretty good. We can clean it up with a paper towel. A little bit of a stickler for like straight lines on things like this. So just quickly brushing with a paper towel. Also, I noticed there's a little spot up here that didn't get as much rose as I would like. Okay, and there is our stripe of rose sugar. I think our syrup is done. Let's strain it out. Okay, 3 small drops of syrup on the counter is actually one of the better syrup pours I've had recently. Okay, as you can see, our syrup has taken on quite a good bit of color. I cannot tell you how just perfumed and lovely the house smells right now. Even just getting your nose in there, it's very floral, it's very rose heavy, but you can also very much smell like that kind of herbaceous juniper scent. I'm so excited about this. I really like this drink. Let's add it to our glass. I'm gonna start off with about 20 grams by weight of our syrup. Essentially just enough to coat the bottom of the glass. Again, this is to taste. When sweetening drinks, I always recommend adding less than you think you'll want. You can always add syrup, you can't take it away. Personal preference, of course, aside, do what you like. We're starting with 20 grams, and now we're gonna add our espresso. It's a good double shot of espresso, about 40 grams in total. We'll forego the long spoon today and just do a swirl to incorporate. Okay, I don't think we forgot about our beetroot milk. I'm gonna go steam this up, and I'll be right back. Just so you can see the color, this is what that beetroot milk looks like right now. Now, when pouring, be cautious. I recommend holding on either sides of the stripe of your rose sugar, just so you don't accidentally put your fingers in it. You're gonna get all sticky. Just a little overambitious with that pour, very nervously. I think we're good, no spills. As you can see, nice change of color here. Even with the addition of a very dark espresso, the beetroot powder really cuts through all of that. And also, I think it has this really nice layering effect. As you can see, the foam kind of set up here on the top, and then you have that lovely pink all the way through. Now you could stop here, and this would be the more functional way to stop on this drink. Now, what I did in my short form video was I actually created an additional line of rose sugar that followed essentially this line here up and across the top of the drink. It's a very striking look to garnish the top of the drink. However, it does leave you with the inevitability of potentially eating some rose petals as you get near the bottom of your drink. So I will leave that up to you whether you prefer to continue garnishing that way, but for the most part, we're done. I can't resist. I'm gonna have a little sip. It's just nice, you know, it's a very nice, soft, pleasant, warming drink that is just such a nice change as we sit in the dead of winter. Now, I like to call this drink the Aphrodite just because I think it's a a very appropriate name for both the color and ingredients in this drink, but let me know if you would call it something different. Now, I will include all the recipe and everything we talked about today in the description, and let me know if you try to make this. I would love to be tagged, not necessarily just for like credit, like I care less about that. I'm more curious about how you all make this and if you have any riffs or changes you make on this recipe. It's always a delight to see what you do with it. Kind of forgotten how I do outros. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go sip this. So my name is Morgan. You can find me here on YouTube once a week plus shorts. Additionally, you can find me on TikTok or Instagram almost every single day. This was fun. I hope it was enjoyable for you. I hope you make lots of tasty things this winter, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one, everyone.